Welcome to the WordPress Photography Podcast, the podcast for photographers who want to learn how to get the most out of WordPress to grow their photography business. You don't need to be a geek to understand WordPress. Settle back and listen as we show you how. Now, here's your host, Scott Wyden-Kivowitz.
Welcome to episode 126. My name is Scott Wyden-Kivowitz, and today I want to share a story with you, and it's one that I hope that everybody learns a lesson from. Now, this lesson goes beyond marketing. It is marketing, it is customer service, it is logistics, it is operations, it is a variety, it is technology. We as photographers, we may not have all of the things in place of what you'll hear in this story. We may not need everything like what this company had to do in this story, but still there's a lesson to be learned here in a variety of ways. So here's the story. My family, we have never ordered from Jersey Mike's Subs, even though we live in New Jersey and Jersey Mike's Subs originated in New Jersey. We have never ordered from Jersey Mike's Subs because we like to support local businesses before we go to a chain. And now Jersey Mike's Subs is an international chain. So we seriously never ordered from there before, which I think is a little silly, but you know, it just is what it is. So I am recording this on April 1st, but yesterday, which was March 31st, 2021, Jersey Mike's Subs was doing a massive campaign all across the United States, where they were donating 100% of their proceeds to charities like the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And of course, we felt like many people did, you know, now is a good time to order from Jersey Mike's Subs. Let's place an order, let's pick it up, and let's have a decent meal for dinner. And at the same time, we're donating $40 or so to charity, to a really good charity. Now, that's not a lot of money, of course, but when you combine thousands and thousands of other families across the country doing the same thing as us, that's a lot of money donated to a really good charity. So we figured that we would order from there. Their campaign, the press release for this, the announcements for this, said it was 2 years in the making. I've shared this story with others, and there's been people who have come back and said that 2 years in the making was 1 year because of COVID, that they did not have this event the previous year. So it's 2 years in the making. But even so, that means that they had 2 years to perfect, to really hone in on every fine detail needed for this campaign to be successful. And unfortunately, as you'll hear in the story, it was not, it's successful, I'm sure, but it was not as successful as it could have been. I don't know the numbers of how much they wound up donating, because I think they're still probably calculating it. But I gathered orders from my family, from my in-laws, from my father and mother-in-law, from my brother-in-law. We gathered orders, planning to pick up food for everybody, and then deliver it to everybody so they could have a good meal, right? And I tried to place the order on the Jersey Mike's website, but it failed. I tried to download the app and tried to order through the app, and it failed. I tried this at the closest store to us, which was not accepting online orders at the moment. And then I tried the second closest store to us, and they too were not accepting online orders at the moment because the technology wasn't working. So I called the closest store, and the phone was actually disconnected with a standard Verizon, "This number is not in service" message. So I couldn't even place an order from the store that's closest to us. So I called the second store, and they said that their online system was down. There's been problems with it all day. Again, you're talking, potentially millions of people around the entire country trying to place orders, and they didn't have the proper technology in place to handle all of that. So I asked, I wanted to place the order, and they said the wait time is 45 minutes to 1 hour. Keep in mind, this is cold subs. These are sandwiches, of deli meats, right? These are cold subs that everything's already prepared. All they had to do is put it together and, whatnot. So that also means that logistically they didn't have the manpower, or the person power to make the sandwiches at a decent time and have it ready for somebody in 20 minutes. So I looked on the Jersey Mike's Facebook page, and it turns out that others were experiencing this problem, and after frustration decided to just not order. They didn't want to have to wait as well, the hour wait time to pick up something that really could be done. If you make a sub sandwich yourself at home, it's done in 2 minutes, right? But if you go to a restaurant, sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 10 minutes. But still, 1 hour, right? Now, if this were my campaign, I would have prepared the technology and made all orders go through the website or app. No phone calls. That would reduce the overhead, right? That would reduce somebody having to man the phone and take orders manually when you could just have the technology do it for you. I would have staffed up every store. I would have been an all hands on deck for the entire day, mandatory with overtime pay. You're already, giving out all of your profit, all your proceeds to charity. You might as well pay your people with money that you're also giving away, right? So, in my opinion, there is no excuse to spend 2 years preparing for what could have been an enormous and historic charity raising day. 2 years. More so, there should have been a backup plan in place for a scenario where the technology fails. So failure on this day, on a day like this, it shows that the company did not truly prepare as it could have, which says a lot. But it also is a learning experience for all the onlookers. So, for example, we have a photography website. If we are doing a big mini session, right? We are doing a big day where it's mini sessions and it's a charity raising event, let's say, which I have personally done. I've personally done a charity raising mini session. You need to prepare your website. You need to look at your historic bandwidth from your server to see how much traffic do I get normally? And what if I tenfold that? Can my server handle it? If you're on a shared host, it probably can't handle it. If you're on a cloud host or VPS, you're probably okay. But there are some hosts like Nexus, which is a liquid web company, who have auto scaling, which actually means that as the resources, the RAM, the server is a computer. So the RAM, the hard drive space, the amount of bandwidth, internet bandwidth it can do, the memory that it has, like your computer has memory. All of these things are automatically increased as needed on the fly by this auto scaling feature. So, bringing this back to Jersey Mike subs and this charity campaign, they could have done the same thing. They could have implemented auto scaling on their server, the server for their website and the server for their app, which could even be the same server or redundant servers, which, by the way, hopefully they have redundant servers, but that would have solved that problem. And then what about the problem in the stores themselves? Well, what if it's internet issues with their internal network or Wi-Fi or whatever it is? Well, that's where 5G hotspots or whatever come in handy. Making it so that there's redundancy going on. And then, of course, there's also the manpower. When I did my charity raising mini session event for my photography, I had 3 additional photographers. It wasn't just me. I also had volunteers come help for the more logistical parts of, signing people in and keeping track of which session was who and all that stuff. So it was all mapped out with redundancy. So there was always someone to do a job, no matter what. There was always the technology in place to handle everything. So this is not, looking down and saying anything bad about Jersey Mike's. This is just a learning experience for us as outsiders to what happened to them. This is something that we should all learn from, so that if we do anything where we expect higher volume than we normally do, have a contingency plan. Prepare for it, and then have a contingency plan just in case something goes wrong, right? So with that, I have to give big kudos to Jersey Mike Subs. Even though I didn't have a chance to support this big charity raising event, I just still have to give them kudos for spending an entire day of giving all of their proceeds, 100% of their proceeds, to worthwhile charities like the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I just wish I could have been a part of that, but it is what it is. So hopefully this story and some of the advice that I have given is a good learning lesson for all of us photographers around the world to walk away from. And maybe you learned something else that I didn't mention as well. Maybe you have your own takeaways. And if you do, comment down, comment on the show notes at imagely.com/podcast/126. Comment and share your takeaway from this. And if you disagree with me, that's perfectly fine. This is all my opinion, of course. And again, I'm not looking down on Jersey Mike Subs. I'm not talking smack about them. I'm just sharing my experience and some takeaways from this, what I've learned from this. So again, imagely.com/podcast/126. Please comment with your takeaways, if you agree, if you disagree, and all that stuff. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
You've been listening to the WordPress Photography Podcast. To listen to other episodes and to subscribe to the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and more, please visit imagely.com/podcast.